Leads versus contacts. This has been an interesting debate over, let's say, the last 3 years, especially as companies start to realize that Salesforce out of the box is not going to work for their business model. So I've worked with a handful of clients that we have actually helped them move over to an account-centric and contact and account model only, moving away from leads. So for today's topics, I got why are companies moving away from leads to a contact and account model, which clients would be good candidates for contacts over leads, what are the options to automate lead conversion. I've gotten this question from clients before. Is it a lead model only or a contact model only? You know, are you just, can you only have those two? Is there a hybrid option? And then what are some processes to consider and any impact to the business? What departments need to be involved? What clients, when we work with clients, who have the stakeholders been in making these decisions? Surprisingly, it can involve a bunch of people. So why are companies moving away from leads to a contact and account model? There's a couple reasons first. So first, I'm just going to share, quickly, this is the standard model that most people are used to when we talk about lead conversion. Marketing has done some sort of activity on their marketing automation platform. They've set out some sort of marketing campaign. They've got a web form that a person has filled out, and that person meets enough of a threshold for marketing to say, push them over to Salesforce. Most marketing automation platforms like Pardot and Marketo will only be able to create these people as Salesforce leads. It will check when it first syncs over, do any of these people already exist in Salesforce? But if they don't, create them as a lead. So then what are your options? Your options in Salesforce are to work the lead, if you're a BDR, a business development rep, see if they meet a certain criteria, convert them to a new account, potentially create a new opportunity and convert them to a contact. And there you go. So that's kind of the process. That works for some people. And often, when you have a client that is basically selling one opportunity to one lead, that could work. But when we're working with clients that have multiple stakeholders in a buying decision, we find that this model doesn't work. So what's happening is you may have that lead initially who is filling out a certain form. And in Salesforce, often marketing will have to look back at a closed won opportunity and try to determine what were all the aspects, interactions that person filled out to attribute marketing influence. What was the one item or the several items that helped to influence that deal? The reality is, for companies that have multiple stakeholders in the buying decision, there's often multiple people that are interacting with marketing assets that could influence an opportunity. So in the lead model that is out of the box with Salesforce, there's a big gap in the aspect that it does not easily allow for a company to track multiple people that could be influencing a sales deal. And nowadays, marketing is more involved with trying to gather that collective group of people, nurture them, engage them earlier on in the process, find out who those key stakeholders could be, package them up once they're engaged, and then push them over to sales. So what's happening for a lot of companies right now is if they recognize we are going to have opportunities that have more than 3 people involved in that opportunity, we're going to want to track that collective group of people earlier on. And a key thing with Salesforce, you can only add contacts to an opportunity. So there's immediately a gap there, a discrepancy, because marketing may be working in the world of leads, but sales is working in the world of accounts and opportunities. So what we started to notice, just moving away from this traditional view, is that the model's not working. So it goes back to that aspect. Sales never talks about closing leads. Sales talks about closing accounts. So what we've seen for these companies is that the ones that recognize, I've got strategic target accounts that I need to close. I've got 3 to 5 stakeholders that are often involved in the opportunity, often involved in the deal. If I can get those 3 to 5 stakeholders recognized, if I can find out who those people are and work them from a marketing perspective and then pass them over to sales, I'm more likely to strategically close this account. So for those types of companies, that old way that is on the left-hand side, where they were so focused on what are the number of leads that we generated? What were the number of marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads? Or how did we get these leads? What was the source of them? We're finding companies don't care about that anymore. They are more focused on the right-hand side where they're saying, how many target accounts do I have in my pipeline? I recognize that if I can start to convert more of those target accounts earlier on and leverage all this technology that I have available to me that is enriching account data, I'm actually going to get closer to my deal than thinking about this quantity of people entering my system. I'm being more strategic. And they care more about moving on to how many contacts do I have at these target accounts? How many contacts do I have involved on these opportunities? At the account level, how engaged are the accounts? How engaged are the opportunities? You know, you can track, you can start to score at an opportunity. You can do an opportunity score by, as soon as you add people to the opportunity as an opportunity contact role, I can do a whole bunch of great reporting off of how engaged is the opportunity. So there's this model that people are recognizing. The old way with Salesforce, so focused on the number of people coming in as leads and converting them one by one, does not fit the sales model that sales teams are following of closing accounts. And so that's a key differentiator of companies that are recognizing we want to report on the account funnel as opposed to working off of leads. And so that's a common reason why they come to us and say, why are we even working out of leads anymore? What can we do? The other aspect too is that you may all have seen a bunch of this data. I'm pulling some slides that I had presented in a previous webinar, so that's why it looks so pretty, but don't worry, I didn't spend too much time prepping for this. I maybe shouldn't have shared that. Accounts have so much technology now that you can integrate into Salesforce. You can use data enrichment tools like, or cleanup tools like demand tools. You can use things like LinkedIn Sales and Navigator, Dun & Bradstreet, Zoom Info. These are just common ones that we're seeing companies, our clients, actually use. You can also start to track how engaged is an account by using intent data. This is basically tracking with other tools and integrate with Salesforce insights into people at those accounts that may be looking for a service like yours. So marketing will often invest in a tool like Engagio, Bombora, or Terminus to start to look at intent data and monitor at the account level how engaged is the account. So again, if you got leads, they're not related to accounts. But if you've got all this data or these tools that your client has just invested in at the account level, you can start to see that everybody is really focusing in at the account level. So what are the options? People are starting to convert leads earlier and earlier into the process to contacts at matching accounts. So which companies have been good candidates? So these are just some of the clients that I've worked with: RainFocus, Lease Pilot, PDI, Acrolinks. I'm curious to know if I'd love to add more to this because these are just ones that could come up to the top of my mind. If you've got several that have moved to this contact and account approach, what are some examples of that? And if you want, you can put that in the chat, example companies that you've worked with, or you can just speak out loud. So again, those are companies that you've seen move away from leads, move to contact-only approach. I think, who else do we have on the call? I don't think Ahmed is on the call. I think he's worked with a few on his end. Anybody else?
Two in the works at the moment, Alemica and Lytics have both expressed interest in moving in this direction. Not completed yet, though.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. And why do you think that they want to move over to that?
Both of their business models have buying committees as opposed to individuals that buy products, and so it just makes more sense for them to be able to track on an account level the interest of that account as a whole rather than an individual buyer.
Exactly. So where we're seeing people recognize is their sales model, again, does not match a lead approach. Companies that are catering to enterprise clientele typically have more people involved in the buying decision. They've got longer sales cycles. And so those are the ones that are determining, you know, an account-centric and contact-only approach is going to be the better fit. RainFocus, they're an event software provider. They sell to large enterprise clients that are putting on huge events, and they'll often have 3 to 5 people involved in a buying decision. So they recognize we don't have all these leads that are coming in. We don't want to follow up with all these people that might be coming in. We have strategic accounts that we want to follow up with, and we're not going to waste our time with anyone else because we only have a service that only certain types of accounts can buy. So that's another thing, is if it's the right ICP, ideal client profile, these companies will determine, is it worth our time to pursue these people? So going back to that account-centric approach, what companies, when they implement this, the way they actually start to group people is they recognize early on, here's a group of people that marketing is going to track. And I can share some topics about how they go about do that when we get a little bit later. And then they start them early on. They say, these are the accounts that we're going to pursue. These are the contacts we're going to pursue. And we're going to move them through this new funnel. We're going to add some marketing stages ahead of the funnel before qualification. And we're going to track them, see how engaged they are. And then once they've met that qualification opportunity stage, then we'll pass them over to sales. Then we'll do a sales handoff. And what we've seen in companies actually doing this is they're actually having marketing create early stage opportunities. They're converting leads to contacts at accounts that already exist. And they're creating early stage opportunities for those target accounts and then moving who they think are suspect people who could be involved in the buying decision. They're adding them early on to these marketing opportunities as opportunity contact roles. And then as that marketing opportunity starts to do certain marketing behavior, like formerly a marketing qualified lead, we'll call it a marketing qualified opportunity or an engaged opportunity, then it will move into various stages for that sales handoff. So then the question is, so what are the actual options to automatically convert leads? And so what we have done is we've actually leveraged code that our wonderful development team has done as a DYK. And it's interesting because there's a bunch of tools out there that say they can do automatic lead conversion. They'll check to see if a lead could match to an existing account, say by email domain and account website domain. We have a code that is a fraction of the price of what these tools offer or that you have to spend on a yearly basis that we implement for our clients. And It's roughly about, $3,000 for, a standard implementation of our development code versus lean data that is a starting point of $10,000 a year. So our code, once it's implemented, it's one and done. We might be able to customize it and tweak it. But really what it does is it checks to see, is at an account, is there a domain address, say like apple.com? If I've got any leads with an email address of at apple.com, if so, I'm going to automatically convert all those leads to the right account, to that Apple account. Any questions on that code? Just want to make sure that I spend a little bit of time of explaining it, because we've also got MJ and other members of the team who've actually written it. And if you want, MJ, if you want to chime in a little bit more, if I didn't explain enough of what it does or could do, feel free. Yes, eVariant was a client. How could I forget? They were one of our first. eVariant was one of our clients that moved to this contact-only approach, and I believe we did the auto lead conversion, or actually I think they used lean data, so they already had lean data in place. I recently learned that Engagio has this option. I've also learned that Ringlead does, and Demand Tools, I'm not sure how automated it is. It might be a batch job. Our code, for example, happens relatively right away, whereas some of the other tools out there might do it in the evening or whatnot, might need to be scheduled. Has anybody else seen other tools out there that does some sort of auto lead conversion?
So I can speak on Demand Tools. On Location has this process where all their leads are just immediately converted. So it does have the ability to be automated. So it leverages Job Builder, which essentially is an interface to set up just standard Windows default scheduling where you can schedule a process. So the power there is you're able to match leads with pretty complex filtering to existing contacts and accounts to make sure that there isn't any that exist. So I think Demand Tools is pretty powerful in that area where you can implement different groupings of logic and make sure that you're not, converting into duplicates. So it does have the power to be automated. It's not a lead conversion focused tool, but it is one of the main points.
And when you say automated, did you say that it has to be scheduled or it can happen right away?
So it's more of like a schedule. I think it depends on your frequency, and I'm not sure how fast you can get Windows schedulers run. Maybe it's down to the minute, but they have it running every 30 minutes. So any leads that come in that 30-minute window, they'll get run through the process at every half hour. It probably could go down. I don't know if it's like triggered off of an immediate action, but it could probably be less.
Elliot, is that just based on you keep saying the Windows scheduler, so it's not running in Salesforce, it's actually running on somebody's computer?
Right. So most people who use this in the terms where they're wanting it to run 24/7, they have it on a server or on a local machine that's reliable, or you could have someone manually run it at will.
Yeah.
It's more of a localized thing. A server is still considered local, in my opinion, because you're
yes.
working on a physical machine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm surprised it's not, added into Salesforce, that it's not triggered off of actions in Salesforce or considered part of the Salesforce scheduler. If it's external, there's other implications like number of API calls and the fact that it would be scheduled as opposed to in the moment.
Right. If you think of it more in terms of very similar to data loader, like you can set batch sizes and how many API calls you want to use in that sense. So it is more traditional, like a desktop software, but it does have the ability to kind of, automate lead conversion, if you will.
Yeah. You mentioned the word filtering, and the solution that we've built internally really doesn't do any filtering other than looking just at the domains that are associated with an account. Right. And just for completeness sake, I'll say also that our solution and probably others have a list of domains that you can exclude from that. For example, unless you're doing business with Yahoo, and I suspect they actually have a different corporate domain other than @yahoo.com, You don't want somebody who is registering for, registering as a lead using their personal email address. You don't typically want those to be included, so you can set up a list of exclusion domains where we don't auto-convert those.
Right, and I think at least in the sense of demand tools, that's really its bread and butter. Is it's primarily used as a matching tool. So if you think of, you can have, for example, on location, we have, in their process, we have 10 matching scenarios, 5 for contact, 5 for account. You start off as very strict, and then the next one's a little less strict, and then you get down to, what the most loose is. And if it matches at any point, then you can decide based on that match level what to do in that specific scenario. So it does have a lot of power in that sense, but it's not going to be running on the cloud. So there is some drawback.
The only other thing I'd say about our tool is that if there's a reason that anybody wants it or is interested in it, they should talk to me. They should, when Jason is back from paternity leave, talk to him. And I suspect John could speak about it as well.
Great. So just a couple quick notes. If you're not familiar with Lean Data or Engagio, those are often marketing. Those are usually spent by marketing's budget. So Lean Data, it has some great aspects for tracking buyer's journey. All the touch points that someone may interact as it leads from when they first entered the system to close win deals. It has that auto lead to contact conversion. It also has some pretty nifty assignment options. So record assignment or opportunity assignment or account assignment. Engagio, I haven't had direct experience with, but I know, again, it's another marketing tool. They will often promote themselves as an account-based marketing, an ABM tool. Recently, we learned with just working with E2Open that they have a feature of this auto lead to contact view. Most companies that are going to be pursuing an ABM model, again, because they're so focused at the account level, if they have purchased a tool for ABM, those tools are starting to see how to help companies either relate leads to accounts within their own system. So they maybe it's not showing in Salesforce, but it's going to show, or maybe it's showing with an iframe within Salesforce, but their tool is going to basically show some relationship from the lead to account, or it's actually going to help convert that lead to a contact at that account. I've heard that Ringlead can do this. That's more for, actually Ringlead is more for cleanup, correct? I haven't had direct exposure to Ringlead, dealing with duplicates and whatnot. I would put it in the similar category as demand tools. I'm not sure how their lead conversion process works. I just know that it can. If anybody has experience with that, would love to hear a little bit more here.
I haven't, but I think it is what you're talking about, where it's more to prevent duplicates and more for data cleansing rather than conversion, but that's just my indirect experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. Well, it's always helpful. I find clients will come to us asking, so what are the options out there? I think it's really helpful to at least know these options. So then continuing on, then a question I've often gotten from clients is, well, so what's happening to leads? Is it lead or contact? Can I do a hybrid model? Another thing that they'll mention is, if I've got a BDR team and an SDR team, I want them to live in one place. I don't want them to be in leads and then have to go to contacts. I want them to live in one place. I want to report off of one item. If you've ever tried to do Salesforce reports about marketing activity or sales conversion, you got to do different report types, off of a lead separate from a contact. And immediately there, people are saying, oh yes, it would be a win to just be able to report off of one object, accounts and contacts, versus reporting off of leads separately. So the answer that I give to clients is, finding the right model is going to be dependent on your business process and what's going to make sense for how you sell and how you go to market, how you market. Now, you don't have to stick with the out-of-the-box lead to contact conversion, and you don't have to just move to a contact-only approach. There, you can do a hybrid model where you can say, if it depends on your business, how you're selling to accounts, but you may have a circumstance where a client is saying, I don't know my full universe. I may have people that come into my system organically. I don't know all these strategic accounts. So I do need to vet them more before I'm going to allow them to get created as an account. So I'm going to use this hybrid model. I'm going to have a BDR team review these leads that are coming in. I am going to have that normal process for basically non-strategic accounts. And if they are a strategic account, I'm going to have that contact-only approach. And I'm going to, anybody that matches to one of those strategic accounts or those target accounts, I'm going to automatically convert them, and I'm going to notify that account rep, and they're going to work them there. So that's where I've seen some companies leverage that hybrid model. Another part that comes up is, well, if we're going to be still working out of leads and we're working out of contacts, how can I monitor their status? How can I monitor their engagement? And it's surprising that Salesforce doesn't have an out-of-the-box contact status. It, it does have a lead status, and often we'll see just as a basic status, you've got MQL, SAL, that's sales accepted lead, or sales qualified lead, or nurture rejected. All these options are customizable. These are just some starting points. We'll say if you're going to do a hybrid model, make sure to have matching statuses, create a contact status field, have matching statuses, and add a few more statuses. So for example, if I am going to be so heavily invested in reporting on people, I still want to report not necessarily at the account level, but I want to report off of contacts instead of at accounts. Maybe I want to have a contact status of opportunity. So whenever a contact is associated to an opportunity, it does show that. And if it's no longer, maybe they didn't win the opportunity, marketing still wants to engage them, they would move it to nurture. Something they'll add here is, so I mentioned that Pardot and Marketo will automatically only create leads in Salesforce. HubSpot, and I haven't had exposure to some of the other tools out there, HubSpot does allow you to create contacts in Salesforce, and as well as create accounts in Salesforce. It also has its own status where you can do automatically show any contact related to the opportunity. So that is just one separate tool. You asked in before this, MJ, will marketing automation platforms start to actually create contacts and accounts and allow that in Salesforce versus just lead only? HubSpot is one of those. And I think that's in part because HubSpot is its own CRM as well. So it has its own capability of doing contacts, accounts, and deals, but it integrates with Salesforce on all those items.
Interesting. I'd be interested to know more at some point, excuse me, it doesn't have to be right now, how they determine which account to associate it with.
It's very much on that account domain aspect. So it is already relating people, and a lot of marketing automation tools don't have two different ways to differentiate a person. They just have a prospect, and what they already associate a prospect to a matching company or matching account. So that potential transition to having the marketing automation platform or the MAP create contacts in Salesforce is not too much of a stretch. It's just that they haven't implemented it except for HubSpot. HubSpot, the way that works is once a record, a HubSpot contact, is allowed to sync to Salesforce, it has met that threshold. If there is not an existing account already in Salesforce, it will create that HubSpot record as a Salesforce contact and create it as a Salesforce account and relate that contact to that account. So that's it. I do have some additional slides to talk about, the marketing stages, how companies are using opportunity contact roles to ensure that contacts are getting added to opportunities. But I'm going to pause and just turn it over for questions because that's additional items that I can add to this, but not quite the original topics that I wanted to cover. What I've seen is that pairs nicely with a conversation of what is the account strategy for the business? How are they looking to close those accounts? And so often, whoever the account owner is, and it now, once I say this, I will always have to say, and it does depend per client, whoever the account owner is will typically own any contacts at that account. So that's other code that I think you helped to develop, MJ, or it could have been John or Vina, I can't remember, but one of the clients, forgetting the name of it now, but they wanted to have that to be a very clean process. OpFocus has that process, that anytime a lead is converted to a contact at an account, whoever owns that account automatically owns that contact. Very clean reporting there. When it comes to, well, who's gonna, if I have a BDR team, who's actually gonna work some of those contacts and whatnot? This is interesting because we've actually started to create those marketing stages for some of these clients, or we call them pre-opportunity stages for an opportunity. And we more talk about not who owns the contact, but who owns these opportunities. So you may still have the account owner owning all the contacts, but you're going to have pre-ops, and you might have a BDR team working a pre-op before it gets handed off to sales. So there's a bunch of discussion that we'll have with a company on record ownership when we begin this process, and because record ownership could differ at the account, at the contact, and at the opportunity level. So I had mentioned you've got a marketing team, you've got a marketing automation tool, you have Salesforce, you have a sales team. Depending on who, a BDR team, sometimes a BDR team may roll up to marketing, or they can roll up to sales. Those are some key stakeholders. When we're talking about record ownership, and MJ just teed me up for this about account ownership, that it may also involve client success. When we're talking about now that we're moving away from leads and we're really focused on accounts, who are all the departments that care about what happens at that account, and how we are updating record fields at the account level or related objects at the account level. I'll often try to ask, who may all be impacted by this decision. And we'll do a system lifecycle. We'll talk through, from marketing, when that lead is first created, what is happening there? How might a lead be created? How might they then automatically be converted to a contact? What will the system check for before it gets converted to a contact at that account? Then once it's added to the account, what happens next? Do people need to be notified? Or do certain thresholds have to be met again? Does a particular score need to be met, or behavior need to be met before a BDR team follows up with them or sales rep follows up? So as you're moving through this kind of system life cycle, matching to the prospect's life cycle, it's important to just spell it out on a flow chart or a document and make sure you're going through that with your client. It can be a little bit nitty gritty, whereas clients may want to stay, especially if you're working with sales and marketing, they may want to stay more high level. But it's really important to map it out from a system perspective so that you help also spell out the impact to the business. When you're moving away, and let me go back to that chart that I had before. When you're moving to this model of an account funnel, it's not just a marketing team that may be impacted this, or a sales team. You'll find that our clients also have to report on certain elements of this to their board or to their operations team. So whenever we're making an impact like this to their business, we also need to determine, how are you currently reporting off of these metrics, and how might this impact, anything that you're happening this month, this quarter, this QBR. So it can be you know, a quick conversation, or it can be a larger conversation. It involves multiple stakeholders because multiple people are going to be impacted by this decision. The other thing too is compensation. So when you start moving away from leads to contacts and you have a BDR team, BDRs are often compensated by how many leads did I convert and an opportunity get created on. Or they may be compensated even earlier in that process of just saying, you know, or later where it's saying an opportunity actually closed one. So when you start to talk about compensation, now you might be getting, you know, obviously sales ops involved, maybe you're getting finance involved. So you can see how a small concept of leads to contacts can involve multiple stakeholders than you didn't expect. But it also helps introduce you to different departments and show that value and kind of become more sticky as an OpFocus consultant. So I get very passionate about it because of that, because of those fun conversations.